On a few minutes ago, you know that we were having some technical difficulties, user error, and I want to go ahead and get started now. So this session is all about messaging for a clinical practice. So before we get started and I share my screen, you'll be able to see my slides and everything. I want to just kind of answer the question, what do we mean by clinical holistic practice? So usually, if you've been following us for a while, you know that our primary audience is aromatherapist. We also talk a lot about training and teaching and partnering with holistic practitioners, and in particular, clinical holistic practitioners. So, why have we added that little line of clinical holistic practitioners? The reason is because we're in that aromatherapy holistic space. A lot of people were attracted to us who are more on the spiritual side of of holistic wellness, and we're on the clinical side of holistic wellness. So who we're working with are with messaging are aromatherapists, licensed counselors, social workers, psychologists, coaches in the emotional support space. That's our specialty. So when you hear us talk about clinical holistic practice, that's what we're talking about. So you'll kind of hear that throughout. All right, and so we'll get started on this, and we thank you for your patience. All right, so we'll start. And let's see if we can get everybody to see it. All right, perfect. So hopefully this is clear for everyone, and we'll get started. All right, so if you're seeing two of these, no worries, you're in the right one right here. And okay, good. Lakeisha says she can see me, so that's great. All right, so get invited to speak the clinical practitioner's guide to changing lives through speaking. So the reason why we called this lesson or this session changing lives through speaking is because our method is really about that. It's helping you as practitioners to be able to do what you set out to do, which is to change lives through the method of speaking. Okay. So we're going to be going through the details or some of the details of how we do that. First, if you haven't met me before, I'm Renee Hughes, and I am a six-figure professional aromatherapist. I work part-time. We've grown a six-figure brand working part-time over the last several years. I'm also a holistic coach mentor. So when the people that we work with, we really do partner with them because these are people who have been doing this for a while. Like many of you, you're busy, you've been doing it. And we love partnering with folks to help them to expand what they're already doing through messaging. And so the method that we've developed has earned us thousands of dollars every time we do an event. It's between 6 and 30,000 for the last 4 years. Okay, so we have a method that works. We love teaching that and helping people with their messaging so that they can actually expand as well. So a little bit about my background. I worked for years. I worked in Wall Street when that was, in its heyday in the 90s, and then I worked in DC. I worked for people in the financial field who were multimillionaires and billionaires. And so, as an assistant and working in those offices, I spent years studying them, how they made deals, how they did business, how they were able to make the world move the way they did. The movers and the shakers, literally, of this world I worked for. And so being able to watch them do their thing, I really learned what business was all about. And what I learned is that at the core of any business that's really causing an impact is relationships. And as I was responsible for making the lunch and dinner reservations and getting them on the golf course and knowing who to put on that course with who and who to put at that table with who, it is really makes a difference. It's building relationship, and the core of that is messaging. So we're going to talk more about what that means for you and for your business. I tried a lot of different methods when I came out of that corporate environment and moved into building my own business. It was fish out of water because I had been in that corporate space for so long. And so I tried the traditional networking, which did not work for me and my personality. That was a big no-go. And over time, I learned what really worked for me, and that was events. That was wellness events. And I made my mark in 2015 by producing a film called A Move Toward Health. And that's where we got started in continuously doing these events. But between 2015 and 2019, I struggled to still make a profit. And we were able to turn that tide really and truly through the events growing and the messaging getting clearer and clearer. So our mission now is to partner with our clients to help them to build these legacy businesses with a really clear and powerful presence. We give loving support and direction so that you're very clear on how to move about in your business. All right. So, Lakeisha, if you tell me, can you see me and the screen or just the screen? If you can just type me a message and let me know. I think there's a couple of different ways to share the screen. Can you tell this is our first time doing this? You can text me and let me know. All right, so let's move on with it. What's the purpose in doing this kind of thing? So why are we focusing on getting invited to speak when it comes to growing in your business? The four reasons, primary reasons are here. First of all, okay, you can't see me. Great. The first of all, it is a really incredible, very strategic marketing and promoting tool. Okay. And it's not just haphazard, getting on and speaking. There's a lot of different platforms. We're going to talk about that. Um, but it's a very important, effective marketing and promoting tool. That's the number one reason. The number two reason that you want to get invited to speak is that it boosts your visibility and expands your audience reach. So that's really important because when you're trying to expand, you already have a niche of people who know you, they like you, they trust you, they're coming to you, they're your clients, they're in your audience. But when you're looking to expand or introduce something new, you need to boost that visibility and you need to expand your audience. And when you're invited to speak on a variety of platforms, that helps to boost into a new territory and a new place where you can speak and write and get the attention of brand new people who haven't heard about you. And you can begin to expand and touch more lives in that way. The third reason is that it's fun. It's a fun and it's an alternative marketing strategy. So, if you've been doing this for a while, you probably have tried different marketing strategies, and it can be kind of monotonous and it can be very time consuming and ineffective, some of these marketing strategies. And this is one that, over the test of time and space, it continues to work. You'll hear me talking a lot about AI. Everybody's talking about AI because it's taken over the marketing space and it works really, really well. And this visibility is going to become more and more important, you guys, as the years go by. And we're inundated with AI because it's just what everybody is going to be using, are already using, and millions are signing up all the time to do that. So your personal visibility is going to make it a relationship based thing, and it's a lot of fun, and it keeps it from being monotonous, and it keeps it from being something that's costly to you. So it's a great way to expand your practice without the stress of some of the other marketing strategies. And then the last primary reason is this instant credibility. It really upgrades your trust factor. So why is that important? If you've been in business anytime, you already know how important it is for people to really come to know you and your brand and for them to trust who you are. So that credibility is important because, especially with what we do as folks who are helping when it comes to emotional support, and people are relying on you for that, or they're relying on you for some portion of their physical or mental or emotional health, you need credibility so that people know that they're safe working with you. So as you're invited to speak and you get to talk about things on a variety of platforms, that's going to help you with that credibility just exponentially. So there's a couple of different ways. We know you can get paid to speak, or you can do it for free. We lean towards, well, we do both. And I want to talk to you about the pros and cons a little bit. With the free training, it's even more you're leaning even more into being able to focus on your brand recognition, promoting your business. You're giving value at the platform where you're speaking, but your calls to action and what you're doing there is going to lean a little bit more heavily on your branding and your voice and using that engagement as a tool to reach out to more people. The trick is that a lot of people don't know you can do that same thing in a paid situation. You just need to know how to position that messaging. But in a paid speaking, it's going to be a little bit more tweaked towards what that corporate office is looking for and what they need. If it's a corporate office or if it's a business, wherever you've been hired in to speak, we're going to then make sure that the training you're doing there, the speaking that you're doing there, the motivation, whatever it is that they've hired you for, it's going to be client tailored. So it doesn't mean that you can't also use that as an opportunity to let people know about you and to get your name out there. You absolutely can. And we help our clients to be able to do that and to leverage those paid speaking gigs. It's a beautiful thing to be able to do very tastefully, where your client who's brought you in to speak feels really good, and it's very beneficial to your business. But those paid gigs should be client focused, and so we want to make sure that we're being respectful and really linking arms with that client that has paid for us to come in and train at their office. Really important. And so the thing that happens as you do this, as you do these speaking gigs, is it helps you to become a sought after brand. This is what we want. As a practitioner, you may not think of yourself as a brand, but it really is true that people need to know something specific about you so that they're drawn to your practice and they know to refer to your practice, right? And all of that is part of you becoming a brand and becoming something or someone that people know, understand, and feel comfortable with. Okay. And so, how we do that is becoming confident at your own level. And so, I like to emphasize this part because confidence is something that, people feel like confidence means that you command attention in any room and, people stand at attention and you walk a certain way and communicate a certain way when you're confident. Is not actually true. Confidence looks different on different people in different ways. So you don't need to completely change your personality, who you are, how you speak, how you move, and all those different things. We are going to talk about body movement and things like that in our messaging, but in a way that's uniquely you. So it's more about finding your brand voice, who you are, and how you want to communicate, um, that you can stand in confidence. It's more about what you think about yourself and your worthiness of being invested into. And it's more about understanding the real benefit that you give to your clients. We talk about that a lot, right? In that way, we're talking about confidence. And then we need clarity when it comes to that too. We talk about this all the time. And it's funny, we talk to people who have been in business for a long time. This is something we've worked on and we've worked on. And I will tell you, it's something that you'll never stop working on, is getting more and more clear in how you explain what it is that you do and being captivating with it. So again, you can be captivating in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be a traditional, oh, this person, their voice and oh, the way they, say things and they're so funny and oh, they had everybody crying. And these things, you may hear that and think, "Oh, that's never going to be me. So I can't be a captivating speaker." And it's not true. It really is talking about your practice function, what it is that you do that gets people excited. So, give you an example, when we were rolling out Moot Makeover Method, that became more popular as people got to see the result from folks. So we had one couple that got on and did a little video series for us talking about what the Moot Makeover Method had done for their marriage, and the wife in that scenario talking about being able to get past just extreme panic attacks where she was waking up screaming and being able to get beyond that in a program. So when people start to hear those stories, That's captivating. And it doesn't mean that I had to present in a certain way or they even had to talk in a certain way. They just sat in their living room and told their story. So captivating means different things for different people, and you'll have your own version of being captivating. And then consistency. Consistency is important. We hear that all the time. But what you may not be thinking about when it comes to consistency is what consistency means to you. Um, and how and being consistent doing the right things. So sometimes we can get wrapped up in our way of marketing or our way of expanding our business, and our way of doing things, and we're just on that hamster wheel and we're busy and we're busy and we're consistently busy, but not consistently getting results. So we want to be consistent doing the right things for the business. All right. So how else can we do this? Or let's dig more into those things, those four things that I just talked about. Getting back to confidence, building confidence. So these are the things that you can do to help build that internal dialogue that you're having with yourself, because that's where that confidence is going to shoot out, and it's going to look different on different people, and yet it can be felt anyway, as long as you really have resonated in your mind and inside of yourself that you know who you are, you know your superpower. So, as a practitioner, what is it that you offer that you feel like is special and rare and different? Feel free to put it in comments if you're watching this live, whatever platform you're on, or if you've gotten the video copy of this, you can shoot us an email and let us know what you feel like that superpower is. Because sometimes you can kind of know, but articulating that and putting that to words can be a challenge. And that's what we really need to do. We really need to be able to connect in our mind and inside what our superpower is and what makes coming to our practice and working with us as a coach or as a therapist or as a counselor, what's going to make that experience different for the person other than somebody else. So what's that superpower? Owning your story. So here's another piece where sometimes people feel inadequate or they think, um, I'm not as XYZ as this other person or that other person. And because of that, that can keep us from feeling completely confident. Instead, if you think about your story, maybe your education, where you came from, how you got to where you are, and you own that, and you're able to be open about talking about it. For example, I just told you some of my story of how I learned business. I didn't go to college. And so some people may try to bury that lead and be like, oh man, so I didn't go to college. I don't have a degree. So can I really be teaching other people about how to expand their businesses? Absolutely. We've done it for hundreds of people. So owning that and letting your whatever that story is be a part of you and speaking about it and getting comfortable with it is going to make a big difference in you building confidence and showing up on screen or showing up on that stage looking and feeling good and able to look people in the eye and connect with them and be friends with them and have them hear from you, and you know that them investing their time with you is not a waste, and them investing their resources in you is not a waste because you really do have something precious to offer. And then leaning to your belief systems. So here's another thing where you may have over the years as a practitioner, you want to kind of keep it mellow. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. You don't want to talk about any subjects that may people may disagree with a lot, or that may trigger them, especially us working with emotional support. We don't want to hurt people or trigger, and that's absolutely true. But you do have a belief system about how you go about your method, your therapy, your practice, how you serve people. And so lean into that and don't be afraid to talk about the things that you do differently from other people. It's an important thing to do, and it's what's going to help your clients or your patients recognize that you're the one for them. So, for I'll give you another example for us. So we don't work with people who are spiritual, have spiritually based businesses. Well, that takes away a huge percentage of this whole health and wellness arena. A huge percentage is what people call woo woo, and they have these spiritually based businesses. It's not in alignment with us, so we talk about it. We talk about it openly instead of feeling like, oh my goodness, I am, alienating myself from a big a big portion of the population of health and wellness. But what that does is those who we are in alignment with us and they are more clinical in nature and they're not looking to partner with someone who's going to bring in spirituality, they can now see us more clearly and hear us more clearly. And it's going to set us apart from some other people who may be doing similar things. So you can see how that would work. So lean into your beliefs and feel open to talking about those. And then release negative perceptions. We did a live with the three-part mood and money challenge. Some of you may have seen that. And on the first day, I shared with you some of the things that were imprinted in my brain growing up about who I was and what my abilities were that could have absolutely stifled me from ever starting a business or ever becoming successful. But by releasing those negative perceptions and replacing them from what was true for me and what I believe to be true about myself, I was able to do this and to be successful at it and feel good about it and really support people and allow them to get to know me because I'm not ashamed of who I am and I feel really solid in that. Does that make sense? So being able to release those negative perceptions, acknowledge them, and then release them. Okay, so in the clarity section, we talked about, my goodness, we talk about this so much, but I could never talk about it enough. And I've done trainings like this where people will say, oh my goodness, like, do we have to talk about this again? I get it. I get it. But what I know is that I don't care where you are in your business. I don't care if you're already six figure, you're seven figure, you're eight figure. You're never going to be able to do this enough. I would invite you, we take a look at this subject at least quarterly, if not more often. It's so important to ask yourself these questions, and to do it over and over again. For one thing, things change, and it's so important to challenge yourself in how you're explaining things to make sure that it really is clear for your audience. All right, so let's start with your specific problem solved. So your specific problem solved. I feel like if I were to ask for hands right now for people to come in and tell me what's the specific problem that you solve, and I know this is true because I just see it so often. If I ask that, the great majority of you, I don't care how long you've been in business, you're going to ramble on, or you're going to use language that your ideal client or patient is not going to resonate with because it's the buzzwords that you're used to using and they may not mean a thing to your client. So being able to quickly in any moment explain the specific problem that you solve is going to make such a big difference in having people be attracted to you. So this is what we're talking about, being sought after, not only potential clients, but also people who would invite you to speak on their stages. They need to know very specifically what you do. So for us, if someone's doing a summit or a conference specifically for licensed counselors, and they're looking for someone who can help train on messaging, that be us. It's very specific. So we know the problem that's solved. We know what we do. What is the problem? People can't explain their problem. They don't know what to say or how to say it when it comes to their clinical practice, and we show them how to do it. See how specific that is without a whole lot of fancy words, what to say, how to say it. So rather than talking about, limiting beliefs and a lot of the other, coaching language that we use, reducing fears, all these things, all that's true. But the bottom line is we help people to know what to say and how to say it when it comes to their practice. That's it. So how can you streamline even further how you explain the problem that you solve, the challenge that you solve, the sleepless nights that you solve? We have all different ways that we say this, right? But basically, that's what it is. Now, what about who you solve it for? That's the other thing that we all struggle with, especially in health and wellness, because if you have a general practice, it is hard to talk about a specific group. Many of you, as counselors and therapists and coaches who are helping people with emotional support, you may be like, I help people with anxiety and depression. But can you specify who you do that for? We've had clients that specifically work. One of my most specific that I really appreciated, once we worked with her, we got down to this really small niche. And hers was working with teen girls who had previously attempted suicide. Now that's specific. That's a specific group. So once she's talking about her program, anybody who has experienced that, their child has experienced that, they're going to be going right to her. That's going to be a magnet. If someone in media is doing a piece on that, and this person has talked specifically about that, it's going to be easy for a journalist to pick out, oh my goodness, there's a counselor, there's a therapist who actually talks about this specific group. So you can see where specificity can be your friend, and if we can make friends with it instead of that fear of, yeah, but I also want to help young boys, and I also want to help the parents of these girls, and I also want, and you absolutely can and will help a variety of people. For example, our focus again, we help, licensed counselors and therapists and aromatherapists who help with emotional support. But guess what? We've also got clients who have schools. We also have clients who help people with pain management. We also have clients who specialize in helping people with Alzheimer's and dementia. So we have a variety of clients, even though our specific group is that. Does that make sense? Okay, so then the specific method. How do you do it? How do you do it? So for let's go back to the lady was helping the teen girls. She was using a combination of talk therapy and aromatherapy to be supportive of them. So how you do it is important. And if you can, once you get so clear on those ways, sometimes I ask people when I'm onboarding them as clients or interviewing them to see if it would be good for us to work together. And we ask this question, what your method is. Literally, some people can't say. They don't know what their method is. They just know they want to help people, and they have this licensing, and people come in to see them, and they go through a specific protocol, but they can't really articulate the process that they take someone through to get results, and that's important to be able to articulate that method. All right, let's talk about this thing with being captivating. So I talked a little bit about that in the previous slide, and the idea that captivating doesn't always mean that you look like a movie star and you speak like one, and you do poetry and you make everybody cry, you make everybody laugh, or you make everybody just say, "Oh my gosh, I just," captivating can mean a lot of different things. It can be a very subtle connection. It can be where people feel heard for the first time. It can be where they are learning something that they had never even knew was an issue. Maybe they, for the first time, understand what their issue is listening to you speak. And how do we connect with people like that? So these are all the things that are included in that. Our tone is important, being vibrant. That doesn't mean yelling and jumping and speaking. Vibrancy is something that comes from the inside out. And it's that glow that you get when you're talking about something that's important to you, that matters to you, and then you know what you're talking about. It's just that vibrancy that just comes out. And when you kind of pull back all the other layers that would have guarded that light where it couldn't come out, and you break down those walls, that's when vibrancy just shows up. And then warmth, making people feel like they're in a space where they're safe, and that you feel comfortable listening to them, and it's not your tone or your method is not abrasive to your ideal client, right? And then being unique and authentic. So that kind of leads back into what we were talking about, leaning into your own beliefs, how you feel about things, how you do things, and letting that be something that you allow to shine through, and your specific purpose. Your specific purpose. All of that is wrapped into messaging. And then that consistency and giving that message over and over again once that you've gotten clear on all those things. So, from clinical to practical, how do we get our audience to listen? So, here's the thing for um, when we're in a clinical practice, most people are not known for being able to speak in a way that would attract an audience. So how do you get people to listen to you when your mindset is very clinical? Okay. Oops, and I skipped a slide there. So I'm just going to speak to this. So how you get people to listen is everything that we actually just said on those earlier slides. It is leaning into and understanding what's behind your message, and then breaking down the walls inside your mind and heart that allows that message to shine through. So when you get really clear on that message, and I'm going to try to get back to that slide. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right. So it is creating that environment that is based in your belief system and methodology and who you're helping, and having conversation around all those things in a very consistent way. That's when people are going to start to listen. So I gave you an example of the lady who was helping the teenage girls. Oh, so what about we've got some other examples for you. So what about our client, Debbie Nadler? And so Debbie helps, families, individuals and families who have received a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or some kind of dementia related illness. Very specific, right? So the way she gets an audience to listen then is to talk about that specific thing. And she's the one who, because she started doing that, was approached by a film producer who's working on that very subject. Well, how did he know to seek her out? It's because she had been talking about that very specific thing. So this is how you get your audience to listen. It's by following the guidelines that we just went over in that earlier slide. Another example is our client, Lee April Burton. So many of you know Lee April of Composed Warriors, and her specific problem that she solves is the agonizing pain that comes with living with sickle cell anemia. So again, that's a very specific problem solved for a very specific group. And she's also been approached for interviews and for speaking engagements and from people in that community, because it's not a community it's a community that's underserved when it comes to a holistic approach. And she has her very specific method of aromatherapy and tapping and talking with them, where she creates a really safe space for them to heal and to get better and to be able to manage that chronic pain. So those are just some of the examples with clients that we work with. We have another one, Maria, who has just launched a school and a program specifically for blending. So that's very, very specific. Lots of clinical aromatherapists out there, but Maria is specifically working with holistic practitioners who want to become an expert at blending. So whether you're already a professional aromatherapist or you're in a holistic practice, but you want to really learn in depth the art of blending, Maria is your person. So all of those specific things, when you start speaking about them, it's when your audience starts to listen, because they then get connected to something they have been wanting to hear. And because it's not a lot of fluff and it's very specific, they get excited. So then where do you want to do that? Where do you want to be speaking about these specific things once you've gotten them, and your belief system and your purpose and all those things? It's really great if you can get into conferences. So again, the more you're talking about this, like on media, you're talking about it on social media, you're getting invited to speak on these interviews, like podcast interviews, that type of thing. You're spreading that message. You're then going to start getting invitations to conferences, but you can also submit to speak at medical or holistic conferences. It's a great way to get into this. Private events, so specifically for current clients, you can also meet up with collaborators. Many of you are here on LinkedIn, and you offer to collaborate with different people as you meet them on this platform. And that's a great thing to do, is to collaborate and create a private event where you can then speak about your specialty, about your beliefs, about how it is that you're serving your particular audience. So these are all incredible ways to expand your business with clients that you're going to love working with. It's just that you've got to have that clear messaging, captivating messaging that's going to support you. So the key to all of this, as you've heard me talk about over and over again, is your messaging. But now, when you nail that and you really can do all the things that we talked about earlier at the deeper levels, each one of the things that we talked about have many deeper layers that you'll learn about. At the core of it, as these things are checked off your list, is messaging. So this is why you keep hearing me say messaging. And when you've nailed that, you will never in the history of your practice ever feel like you're selling. Whether you're talking to an investor, whether you're talking to a potential client or partner, you'll be able to talk to people about investing in you, whether it be one-on-one as a client or on bigger platforms with so much ease without ever feeling that gut-wrenching feeling that I'm selling once you clarify your messaging. So this is at this point we want to talk to you a little bit about what are some of the differences between messaging. We hear this messaging. It was so funny. One of my team members sent a message out about a training that I was doing on messaging, and this was for with a clinical. I think this person was a therapist. I can't remember, but she said, I don't send messages to my clients, but that might be interesting to learn about. And so there's a misunderstanding sometimes of what messaging is, especially those of you who are in the clinical space. So I want to explain it a little bit, the difference between messaging, and once you understand that a little bit better, you'll have a better appreciation of why it's so important to nail this so that you don't ever feel like you're selling. So then there's messaging, and then the other thing we hear a lot is content, and then we hear copy. So we hear these three things all the time: content, copy, messaging. Content, copy, messaging. What in the world is the difference? Okay, so here's the thing. Content is anything that you're putting out. So anything that you're putting out, it can be written, it can be videos, it can be anything that is coming from you and going out to your audience, your potential audience. All of that is content. All of that is content. Okay, it's something that you're putting out from you to the world. Copy is that information in written form. So it's the letters, it's the words that you put to paper, so to speak. That's copy. It's articles, it's blogs, it's posts, it's the copy, it's the actual words that you're putting down. Okay. Messaging is so much broader than that. Messaging includes copy and content, but messaging is so much more about this. It is the overall meaning, flow, and feel of you, your practice, who you are, what you do. This is why we say we teach people what to say and how to say it about their business, which is going to encapsulate who you are. And so it's your purpose, it's your belief system, it is how you do your practice, why you do your practice, the method that you use, who you do it for. Your messaging encapsulates how to speak about and present all of that. And it is the flow of your practice and your business and how you present that. So it includes content and copy. That makes sense. It is, again, that the meaning of your practice and what you do and who you are, it's the flow of it, it's the feel of it in language. So putting that in language, whether we're speaking, whether we're writing, it's the tone of it, it is the movement, it's how we speak, it's what we're saying, it's what we're putting on paper, it's what we're putting out there, but it's everything, the backdrop of all of that is what is involved in messaging. Does that make sense? So that is the big difference between those three things: messaging, copy, and content. And so what we do encapsulates, am I saying that right? Encompasses all three of those, right? So that is the real meaning of messaging, and that is what you want to nail in order to take your clinical practice and expand it, is to get really, really good on that messaging. Think about each little piece that we talked about today and how you can challenge yourself to get even better. And I don't want you, a lot of folks will say, well, I know this stuff and I've done that already. But you can do it at deeper levels. And I want to challenge you to try. Try to see and to go back and see, can I get even clearer on those three S's? Okay, your specific method, group, and problem solved. Like, can I do that? And I also want to challenge you to try in explaining your purpose and your different belief systems and putting that, explain it to people like at a drop of a hat. Have people test you and just call you up and say, okay, give it to me. Like, what is it that you do? And see how quickly and clearly you can explain those things. So we're going to be doing some live practicing on that at our next event, Bold and Booked. Some of you have already attended previous Bold and Booked events, and each time we do it, we do something a little different. This Bold and Booked is going to be really special because we're going to focus on two primary things in Bold and Booked. One of it is going to be telling your story. So you see how I kind of weave different parts of my story into what I was talking about today, and that was just kind of the little tips of things. Telling your story, we're going to talk a lot about that, and we're going to spend a lot of time on sales conversations. Because what we find is where some of the other things are a little easier, like the emails and the posting, and we'll talk about those things. But whereas those things are a little bit easier, the two things that kind of remain a struggle for seasoned professionals like yourselves are the sales conversations and those and telling your story. So we're going to really spend a lot of time on that. The other thing that's going to make this issue of Bold and Book different is we're going to be doing some specific networking. So we're going to tell you about that a little bit later, but we're going to be doing networking that's going to help you to build partnerships, collaborations, and attract the right clients to the right practice. All right. So we're going to be doing that together, which is super important these days. And so boldandbook.com is where you go. You should have a link wherever you're watching this, boldandbook.com. We want to invite you to come do the all the work together. So what we do in Bold and Booked, it is a session, an actual session as with me as your mentor. So it's not like this where you're just listening to me talk and you're taking notes and all that's great. Or you might be half listening, you're washing dishes or you're doing something else and like, oh, that's a good point. Oh yeah. With Bold and Booked, you're actually working in your practice. So for our clients, we always encourage them to have a schedule. And in that schedule, you have income producing activity that you're actually working in your business. And then you have a separate time where you're, doing continuing education and things like that. This is not a continuing education. This is an income producing activity that you're going to be doing along with networking. Okay. So keep that in mind. That's what we're going to be doing at Bold and Booked. Go take a look at it, boldandbook.com. Me and my team are at the ready to answer any questions that you have about it. And we hope to see you there to get some active work on your practice, whether you're moving from traditional to an online, or whether you're moving from online to back to an actual office. Whatever your current situation is, we want to talk to you about how to make that message clear and crisp and fun and captivating, and to have you communicate it effortlessly. So that's what we're going to be doing at Bold and Booked, and we look forward to seeing you there. All right, so that is the end of our slides. That is the end of our session. And I'm going to see if I can hop back over here. Okay, there we are. All right, so thank you all so much for your time. I appreciate you being here and taking a listen to this. Some of you are watching this on a recording, and if this is getting to you in an email, you have questions, or you can put those questions right in comment section. All right, thanks so much and take care.